Minister, it feels like we're in the midst of a full-blown crisis in our criminal justice system, and I don't use that term lightly. I mean, as I said yesterday, and you were in the chamber when I made my remarks to the Taoiseach, we had the criminal courts of justice effectively come to a halt because of an industrial action by barristers, because they haven't been listened to, and they started a discussion around their dispute on the 12th of July, and nothing has happened from either your department or the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform between July, August, September and now into October to make sure that wouldn't go ahead. And they went ahead yesterday, and there's more planned, and they're not being listened to, and 2/3 of barristers leave the job after 6 years. And we had a sexual assault case that almost collapsed in May because of lack of a senior counsel. So that's effectively a crisis. We have the numbers of prisoners in Mountjoy sleeping on the floor has quadrupled. And we have the governor saying that we have too many prisoners on 4-month sentences and it's clogging up the system and it's not working, and they're not being listened to. And now we have a situation where every Tuesday this month, including Halloween, we have guards refusing to take up overtime, which means that the system is effectively going to collapse this month. Now, I don't need to tell you, Minister, if you go to any community policing meeting in my constituency and tell them that the Garda numbers are going to be curtailed on Halloween, it frightens the hell out of them. And we know that there is a massive morale issue within Garda Síochána. Before I even come on to the dispute, that there's a massive morale issue, that there's a retention and recruitment issue, and too many guards are saying to me that they wouldn't join the force now. They wouldn't join it. So, and you've spoken about in glowing terms about community Gardaí and all the rest of it, and how the numbers are being protected. Well, there's absolutely no sense that the community Gardaí numbers are being increased. I mean, and as other deputies have said, that we hear from places like Baldoyle in my own constituency that community Gardaí are being withdrawn. I mean, from my own teaching experience and my community work and my role as a politician, the most important role of Garda Síochána was the community guard. The community Gardaí solved and stopped and halted and prevented more crime than I'd imagine any other unit of Garda Síochána, by engaging with young people, by talking to schools, by being a presence on the ground, by being a friendly face, by being a name that you knew, a name that you could trust, getting behind the uniform. Because, look, I have the utmost respect for the Garda Síochána. I have members of Garda Síochána in my own family. People have lost their lives. They put their lives on the line for the safety of this state and for individuals, and that absolutely has to be recognised. And I'm fundamentally a pro-Guard person. But there has been, traditionally, in certain parts of the country, and particularly in Dublin, an issue, a relationship problem, a tension between members of Garda Síochána and certain working class communities. And I think to deny that wouldn't be truthful. But that has been worked painstakingly on over generations to try and work beyond that, work beyond the uniform, work beyond that tension, begin to know people as individuals. But when that's stripped away, that availability of the Guard to come to the meeting, the availability of the Guard to come to the school, the availability of the Guard to be seen at a community event, that is more damaging than I think anything else. So when I hear from my own constituency, in areas in which I work, that the community Guard is no longer available, the community Guard is being withdrawn, there's less community Gardaí, I know that in 10 years' time we're going to feel the results to that. Minister, last night I was at a meeting I organised in Raheny, and what I heard, unfortunately, didn't shock me. I've had, a situation of one family being consistently targeted by young people on bikes, pelting their house over 4 years. They have an infant child. I have a local shop where young people are racially abusing the people who work there and causing all sorts of hassle. I have a local Church of Ireland church around the corner, which, it's being made impossible for them to do what they normally do in terms of their community work because of the nature of the intimidation and the antisocial behaviour. And when I interact with local Gardaí, I get the feeling, and I don't want to be unfair, but I get the feeling from them that they are doing an impossible job. And my worry is, what are these young people going to be like in 10 years' time? Okay? So, So we have an issue. And now we have a situation where the Gardaí are engaged in industrial dispute. And you know that really touches at the very sense of security that everybody in this country has. If there's an industrial dispute of that nature, it means that everybody feels a little bit more insecure. Now, I don't agree with calls in this House for the Commissioner to resign. I think that is not fruitful or positive contribution to this debate. Over the last 10 years, we've had 2 previous Garda Commissioners leaving under a cloud. We've had changes at the top of the Department of Justice. We've had ministers who've had to resign for various different reasons. So we've had a lot of insecurity and upheaval in the justice system for the last 10 years. So what we don't need is more calls for heads to go. And I didn't agree with the wording of the motion put down by the GRA to their own members. But in talking to individual Gardaí, they said that they voted no confidence in the Garda Commissioner because that was the only avenue they had to express their displeasure at the rostering situation. So I think we can divorce those 2 things. So I don't think calls like that are helpful. However, I do think, Minister, and I have said this to you before, I said it yesterday, and I've made this comment over the last period of time, that the policing authority does have a role here. The policing authority was only established 10 years ago. It does have a role in overseeing the Garda plan for the year and its implementation, and certainly they should have a view as to how this dispute could be resolved. Because we can't come back here. We can't have a situation of rolling days of action by barristers, closing down the criminal justice system for days, and we can't have a situation where Gardaí every Tuesday this month are not going to be available for overtime, and we can't have a situation where that intensifies. We can't have a situation where so many guards want to leave the force, and we can't have a situation where communities feel unsafe. So, Minister, this is on your watch, and we're going to have to work on solutions. And as others have said, you have a solid amount of work done in various different aspects of your brief, which is commendable, and particularly the establishment of the Sexual Assault and Gender-Based Violence Agency, which we discussed here last week. But this is absolutely a full-blown crisis. And what's happening on the ground, therefore, in areas in which I represent, is really hurting people's sense of security. We need to work on issues such as the new Garda station for Dublin 17 in Northern Cross. That's something that I know your government have committed to, which will be a major new Garda divisional headquarters. But, Minister, denying that this isn't a crisis is not going to help anybody in this House or in the communities which we serve to feel more secure.